Well, thank you. As he said, my name is Brad Logger, and I am a small business owner from Northwest Missouri. I grew up in the Maryville area. I went to college in Northwest Missouri State. Got a degree in computer management systems, which is essentially a business degree and a computer science degree. When I graduated, I had a great opportunity. I had the opportunity to go to work for a small wireless company that had won the Spectrum auctions in the late 80s. They had one full-time employee. I worked part-time there while at the company. So I went to work there, and the partner said, "Hey, I tell you what, if you're willing to stay here and run it just like it's yours." I was 20 years old. What a great opportunity. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Dove right in. I spent 5 years there building that company. And you know, I am a guy who just fundamentally, philosophically believes that the private sector will always do a better job of meeting the needs of the public than big government programs. During my time there, one of the things that happened to me was time and time again, I continued to run into our good friends at DNR and FCC and the FAA, and I really learned how much government gets involved in your life. In 2002, I ran for the State House. During my time in the House, I served as the House Budget Chairman. Unfortunately, that was the year we had the $1 billion deficit. We had to make a lot of tough decisions to make sure that the taxpayers of this state didn't receive tax increases. And then in 2006, I had the opportunity to go to the state Senate, where I serve today. I'm the chairman of the Joint Committee on Tax Policy. I serve on Ways and Means, Government Accountability, and Fiscal Oversight. I am a small business owner who just wants to get up every day and work hard for the taxpayers. I'm asking to be the state treasurer because I believe that every dollar of the taxpayers' money that's both invested and spent should be done so in the best interest of the taxpayers. So thanks for letting us be here today. And I look forward to visiting with you about my thoughts, my beliefs.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Again, my name is Clint Zweifel, and I'm proud to be here as the Democratic nominee for Missouri State Treasurer. I grew up and represent an area in northwest St. Louis County bordering the Missouri River, Florissant, Hazelwood area, and grew up in a pretty working class community. My dad was a carpenter and my mom a hairdresser. I was the first person in my family to attend and graduate from college, attended the University of Missouri St. Louis as an undergraduate, and then went back later on and as an adult and got my MBA. And been married for 10 years, met my wife at the university, and we have been foster parents for 5 years through the state, and we're newly adopted parents for the last few weeks. So I think those experiences for me really shape my vision of what public service should be about. I think at the end of the day, this central foundation role for elected officials needs to be make sure that we give equal opportunity to all Missourians, to give them a chance to really reach their full potential. I've been a leader in the legislature. I was elected in 2002, was the only Democrat that year actually to defeat a Republican incumbent. I won by 67 votes. And have been working hard since then on fiscal policy for this state. I'm ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee for the last 4 years. I also serve on the Joint Committee on Tax Policy. I've been someone who has proposed legislation and sponsored and helped pass legislation that reduced the burden of property taxes on Missouri families, that helps make higher education more affordable, and it really helps grow the economy. At the end of the day, I see this office first and foremost as a responsibility to manage taxpayers' resources and to care for them in a vigilant way. And I think secondly, I think at the end of the day, if you're elected to this office, not appointed, if you're elected, that you should be able to bring values and ideas that at the end of the day really move the state forward, helping grow our economy, helping increase health care access, helping make higher education more affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. We're ready to move now into the question portion of our debate. Let me throw one out there for you to start out with. The current state treasurer, Sarah Stillman, had adopted a policy of zero tolerance when it came to conflicts of interest for companies that were seeking to start ethanol or biodiesel plants. Her policy essentially meant that if there was even one state lawmaker or relative of a state official who had an investment in one of those plants, that they could not get a linked deposit loan through her program. The Senate this past year voted to overturn that policy. The House went along with it, but that was part of a larger bill. And so I'm wondering, as treasurer, would you seek to reinstate the zero tolerance policy that Sarah Stillman had adopted, or do you support the changes that were made to it? Brad, you're first on the question.
You know, I'm a guy who believes transparency in government is the most important thing that we can do. I have fought for a long time to do everything I can to make sure that our government is open to the taxpayers. And, you know, I believe that we have a responsibility to make sure that all the dollars that we're talking about, both spent and invested, that the taxpayers understand how they're being spent and who's being benefited from it. I think that the General Assembly has now passed the law, and so as the treasurer, I will implement the practice that is now in current law. But I will tell you that I believe that the most important piece of all of this is making sure that we have transparency. And I think that is really the role that we are going to have. And we now have a state statute that we're going to have to abide by. But I believe that the real challenge for whoever is the next state treasurer is to make sure that transparency is definitely part of our process in Missouri.
That's right.
Thank you. Well, first, I support the Treasurer's policy on that. I think that if you believe that government has a role in encouraging economic development, and I think clearly the link deposit program is a way to help do that, you have to make sure that the program is not only transparent, but actually protects taxpayers. And at the end of the day, making sure that you don't have favoritism or perceived favoritism in something like that is critical and really important. I think that should be extended, though, to all parts of Missouri state government. MHDC is even larger amount of money when it comes down to it, and we have businesses that are often doing business with, or commission members that are doing business with developers. And that's an unacceptable policy, too. So I think it has to really touch all parts of state government.
Thank you. Questions from the audience?
Hi, I'm Jeff Schrog from Springfield. I have a question about state tax credits. We have lots and lots of programs in Missouri, ranging from MHDC, which is very controversial and very political, to the state historic preservation tax credit, which is somewhat of a not political program. What's your general philosophy about our tax credit programs, and how do you advocate for them in the legislature?
This goes first to Clint Swipe.
Thank you. Well, as I stated in my opening remarks, I think that it's critical that government has a role to help provide opportunity. And I think our tax credits have been a way to encourage economic development in the state, or an important way to do that. And how I view them from my overall philosophy is a tool in the toolbox. So in other words, credits, investments in higher education, investments in early and elementary childhood education, business climate, those are all different tools in the toolbox to encourage economic development and business development in the state. So I view credits as one piece of that. One of the things that I think is particularly important is that we're going to have an environment where we believe credits are used to encourage development, that we have to have transparency, and we have to have an environment where there's trust that's built with taxpayers, and that they feel comfortable that these credits are actually adding value to the economy and producing real jobs. So one of my beliefs is that we have to really evaluate these credits to make sure that at the end of the day, they're providing value in not just any job, but actually high-paying jobs for Missourians. And that's one of the most important aspects on how to value those credits that we can do at the end of the day.
Brad Lager.
This has been an issue that I have been working on for several years now. It is, as some of you may or may not know, we have seen the growth of tax credits just soar in recent years. As Clint mentioned, the reason for it is that they now are a tool that's used to cultivate and facilitate and really recruit jobs to our state. And although we all agree that these tools are definitely part of the process, I think that for me what's most important is that there's an accountability piece that goes with it. There's an oversight piece. And all too often what happens is that once a tax credit is passed, there's never a process by which the General Assembly ever comes back and actually reviews it and says, okay, is this credit doing what it's supposed to do? And thoroughly works through that. And as the chairman of the Joint Committee on Tax Policy, that's been one of the issues that I've fought hard for. During my time in the Senate, I have said and have fought and still believe that accountability in that process is the most important thing we can do. And I want to make sure that if we're spending the taxpayers' dollars, that the taxpayers are getting an adequate and a reasonable return on those dollars. I believe strongly in that, and I believe that every investment we make, whether it's through the appropriations process or whether it's through the tax credit process, should have accountability and oversight of the General Assembly.